Hello everyone, back tuning to the GWV Winter 2019-2020 forecast. So this is it, we have reached winter forecast day. We have released 13 winter updates. We began on the 1st of September, as well as 3 season mod roundups. The last one of those was yesterday on the 30th of November. So a full season of updates this year, starting the 1st of September, finishing 30th of November. But we can do no more. We can do no more winter updates. We can do no more seasonal roundups. All we can do is release a forecast. And that is exactly what we're going to do with this update. So first thing we're going to do is go through which years have come out on top in terms of our winter methodology and our winter update. So we've got a lovely spreadsheet to show you that has been compiled by our good friend Terry Scully. Big thank you to Terry for that. And we'll go through that. Then we'll go through all of the analogues for those leading analogue years. Then at the end of the video, I'll give you the forecast from GWV. So sit back, enjoy. It's going to be a long video. Got a lot to talk about, a lot to get through. But we will get through it. And yeah, just sit back and enjoy. Get yourself a cup of tea, sit in a comfy chair, and maybe 1 or 2 biscuits to treat yourself. Who knows? And I'll get on it for you very shortly. I'm going to give a big thank you and a big shout out to Terry Scully as well. Not only has Terry compiled the spreadsheet and given us loads of advice and help, but Terry's like my guiding hand on the shoulder, sort of letting me know that I'm getting it right and the things we're looking at and the decisions we're making are along the right lines. So Terry is the long-range forecaster's forecaster, and if I'm getting it right, Terry will let me know. If I'm getting it wrong, Terry will let me know as well. So a big thank you to Terry Scully for all of his help, advice, input, and also getting together the spreadsheet and bring the data together, really. We couldn't have done this forecast, I don't think, without Terry's help and input. So thank you so much to Terry for that. Also, big thank you to James Aquila, our analogues guru, again for this season. James has been working tirelessly away for us. So thank you so much, James. You know what I think about your work, so just thank you so much. And we couldn't do the updates that we do with the analogues without James's input. So thanks so much to James. And of course, also big thank you to Richard Trott, who's been giving loads of advice and help to us, and also coming up with the gifts that we've been starting and ending our winter updates with. I've got a special gift today for the winter forecast, so thank you to Richard for that. Big thank you to James, to Terry, and to Richard. We're like a 4-piece ensemble, really, and it's very much a group effort, very much a collaborative effort now with the winter forecast and winter update. So thank you so much to James, to Richard, and to Terry. So, I'm also going to tell you that this video could be a long video, of course. It's winter forecast, so it will be an epic. It's going to be placed on the winter updates page with a written summary going over everything that we discuss in the video, and that will be tonight, probably after 8 o'clock. I'm going to be doing a live stream on the GWV's YouTube channel between 5 and 6 o'clock. We'll be talking about this winter forecast. We'll be taking your questions, just generally seeing what you thought about it. So that's going to be between 5 and 6 o'clock. Last scheduled live stream for the time being. I'm sure we'll do some more at some point. I don't know when they will be, but I'm sure we will do more live streams. But for the moment, this will be the last and final scheduled live stream on the GWV's YouTube channel. I think they've gone quite well, but I hope you've been enjoying those live streams that have gone along with the winter updates. So I've also going to tell you about Terry Scully's December forecast. Terry Scully's December forecast will be with us later on today, so you'll be able to have a read of that. Also, probably get that posted up for you sometime this afternoon. I think I'm going to say, I've given all the shout-outs. I've gone through everything that's coming up. So I think that's it. I think now we can get on with the GWV Winter 2019-2020 forecast. And we're going to begin, of course, with the spreadsheet. So Terry has compiled this for us. So a big thank you to Terry for compiling this spreadsheet. So this is showing each individual year, going all the way back to the 1850s, 1852, right the way to the year of 2018, last year, of course, and the X's in the boxes, they are marking like where we got a hit for an individual year. So the methodology is on the side. Let's just change the colour. Not sure why it's gone gold. The methodology is on the side. So we've got August CET, for example, there, down to top 25, wettest autumns just there. Some of the things that we look at, by the way, only apply from 1950s. So as we go to the more recent years, they have more hits, partly because things like the NAO, which we started with, of course, in the first winter update, we looked at the NAO in the month of May, and winters that followed them. That only begins, that data begins at 1950s, and also the QBO, for example, quasi-biennial oscillation, that also begins in the 1950s. So the further down we go with this spreadsheet, the more sort of elements and things that we can put in, and so the more hits we're likely to get. But for example, 1853 comes out as quite an important year. It has 5 hits. We see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 hits there. In 1853, we see that Terry has very helpfully put those hits in for us. So if we scroll down, another year that's been showing up quite a lot is 1879, that ferociously cold year of 1879. So that one has had, let's have a look at how many it's had. So that one has had 1, 2, 3, and 4 hits. Again, Terry has very helpfully put in the 4 hits that we've had there. Let's come down to the more modern years. I always feel very bad about this. James normally does spreadsheet. Terry's done it for us this year. I always feel very bad because I don't have enough time to feature everything within the spreadsheet, and there's so much work and effort and time that goes into this to get this together, and I never have enough time to focus on it, unfortunately. So you see how much work is going into it. I mean, just here, we're starting with this column there in the 1920s. And if I scroll it over to here, we go all the way from the 1920s over to the 1940s, just there. And it's column after column, row after row. And as I say, I always feel very, very bad that I never have enough time to feature as much as I would like of these spreadsheets. But time is always against us. That's always the big problem with these updates. Time is always against us. But it's the way that we work out which of the leading analog is. So we couldn't really do it in any other way. It's a very important element to be able to do this. But I never have time to focus on it enough videos. Another year that's been showing up quite a lot is 1945. Again, that has 1, 2, if we come down here, 3, let's do that, 3, 4, and 5 hits. Again, we see Terry has very helpfully told us that one has 5 hits. Now, year that's showed up even more is 1998. So if I just try and scroll this along to make 1998 come into the middle. So there it is. The year of 1998 has had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if we come down, also it's had 6 and 7 hits. So we've got 1998 showing up with 7 hits there. So the leading analog years, also we have 2013 showing up quite a lot. That one is actually one of the leading analog years, the winter of 2012-2013. That one has 8 hits, can you believe? That is one of our most important analogs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 for the winter of 2012-2013. That's been showing up a lot, can you believe? So these are the leading winters that have been showing up within our analogs. So we've got the winters that have shown up 5 or more just here. Those are there. So those winters, these are the leading analog winters then. So those winters are 1852, 1853, 1875, 1876, 1944, 1945, 1955, 1956, 1960, 1961, 1976, 1977, 1984, 1985, and 2001, 2002. Those years have shown up 5 times. More importantly than those years are ones that have shown up 6 times. These ones just here. And those winters, 1835, 1836, 1997, 1998, 2000, 2001, 2004, 2005, and 2009, 2010. Those winters have shown up 6 times during our winter updates. Even more important than those are ones that have shown up 7 times. Only one of those, which is 1998, 1999. That has appeared 7 times in our season of winter updates. And then finally, the 2 leading analogue years this year for our winter updates are 2002, 2003, and 2012, 2013. Those 2 years have shown up 8 times out of 13 updates. Of course, they might have showed up twice in one update. Something like that could have happened. But you see, those 2 are clearly the leading analogue years. So we have a very wide range of analogue years here from analogue winters from 1852, 1853 all the way to 2012, 2013. And the higher rated the year, of course, higher rated the winter, the more important it becomes within the analogues, because it showed up time after time after time. And I say these 2 are the 2 leading analogue years, 2012-13, 2002-2003. That's not to discount these other years that have shown up 5 or 6 times, or even 7 times. And I'm going to show you all of the data in a moment for the winters that have shown up 5 times or more, 6 times or more, 7 times or more, or 8 times or more. Terry's also putting loads of notes there for us to go at. But as I say, unfortunately, time is against us. I'm going to get on with the forecast. So I'm going to pause the video there. We'll come back in around 2 seconds' time, and we'll go through our leading analogue winters then, and you'll see how all of the data is shaping up. And then after that, I'll give you the GWV winter 2019-2020 forecast. So we've talked 12 minutes. We're going to pause, and I'll see you very, very shortly. Okay, we're back, and we're ready to resume the GWV winter 2019-2020 forecast. And before the break, we was talking about the leading analogue years. We've been going through the spreadsheet that Terry Scully compiled for us, so we could see which were the leading years that have been showing up time after time after time within our winter update. So a huge thank you to Terry for getting that spreadsheet together for us. As I say, I always feel bad about the time and effort that goes in to bringing these spreadsheets together for the winter forecast, that we don't have enough time to go through each and every individual year. But time is always against us, and we've got a forecast to do. And next, I'm going to go through the analogues for those leading years. So we looked at which years were coming out with 5, 6, 7, and 2 of them, 8 hits. Now we're going to talk about what those winters were like, bringing them all together. And then after that, I'll give you the forecast itself. So we begin having a look at all Decembers combined that have got 5 or more matches. So this is like the broadest range of analogue years. This is starting with the years that have 5 matches, going all the way up to the leading 2 that have 8 matches. And in terms of all Decembers combined, it looks like rather a cold and unsettled signal, actually, when we have 5 or more matches. We have above average heights in December sitting to our north with these winters. We have below average heights sitting over the country, and so therefore it's quite an unsettled signal for December. We would expect a rather wetter than average month, I would have thought, but also potentially quite cold. But it's a relatively strong northern blocking signal that could be pushing cold air down into that trough of low pressure. All Januaries combined, where we have 5 or more matches, looking even stronger with the blocking. This is a colder signal. Below average height gets pushed southwards with our leading analog years 5 or more. We take the trough of low pressure to the south, and we strongly actually favour high pressure to be setting up over Greenland. So when we have 5 or more matches in terms of all Januaries combined, we are really building up the northern blocking signal, and that is quite a cold looking signal indeed. This is how things look in terms of all Februaries combined when we have 5 or more matches. So all Februaries combined look like that. We tend to have, again, a strong blocking signal. This is a strong blocking signal that we see for all Februaries combined with 5 or more matches. High pressure over Green and back into the Arctic. Low pressure is through the mid-latitudes into the mid-Atlantic, I should say, into the middle of Europe. So again, you'd expect to be putting in quite cold east or northeasterly wind. These 5 or more matches definitely favouring a cold winter outcome. That's how all Marches combined are looking. And again, it's a cold winter signal with above average heights tending to be focusing around Greenland and below average heights tending to be in the middle of the Atlantic. Perhaps a slightly drier signal for the all Marches combined, but still cold, will be pushing down cold winds from the north, east, or from the east on average with all of those Marches. And putting all of the winters together with 5 or more matches in terms of its winter forecast methodology, it is a strong blocking signal. You would look at this and think we are very much favouring a colder than average winter here with strong areas of above average heights to the north and a lot of below average heights to the south, and you will think we're pulling in easterly winds. In fact, we will be pulling in east winds on average with those 5 or more matches. In terms of the all Decembers combined, if we narrow it down a little bit though. So we're taking out the 5 or the years that are matching 5 times, and we're just looking at the years that are matching 6 times or more. So we're trying to narrow the field down as we're going along, if you see what I mean. So narrowing the field down a little bit more to 6 or more matches. You see, if you go back to here, you see how many years we have for the 5 or more matches. Look how many years there are. The years are on the side, so lots and lots of years for the 5 or more matches. But we take those years out that have 5 matches, and we just look at years that have 6 or more matches, and now we narrow the field down a lot with the 6 or more matches. We just have these ones: 1935 for December, December 1997, December 2000, December 2004, December 2009, December 1998, December 2002, and December 2012. So as we're going along, we're narrowing down the analogues and just focusing on the leading analogue years the further along we go with this. So these are how all Decembers combined are looking when we have 6 or more matches with a narrowed down field. Actually doesn't make all that much difference in terms of the northern blocking signal. We still have strong areas of high pressure sitting to our north with below average heights, low pressure underneath it. That's an unsettled signal for December, and also quite a cold signal as well. We'd expect to be bringing in cold winds from the east in December with 6 or more matches. This is how all Januaries are looking with 6 or more matches. Again, strong northern blocking signals have this trough of low pressure over the UK and Western Europe, above average heights to the north, particularly focusing around Greenland. Of course, not every January here would be cold, but favouring a colder outcome. We do have 1998, for example, in the mix, so that's a very mild January. But on average, these Januaries do favour northern blocking to some degree and potential for quite wintry conditions. February looks even more blocked, so this is how all Februaries are looking with 6 or more matches. Again, we tend to get high pressure centering to our north. Low pressure tends to be to our south with 6 or more matches with the GWV.com winter forecast methodology, and that would open the winds to the east or to the northeast as well. March also has strong northern blocking. A little bit different though in March with the 6 or more matches, in that the northern blocking goes a little bit more towards the Canadian side of green. But nevertheless, it's a strong northern blocking signal, and with below average heights to our south, you tend to favour wintry conditions continuing. Of course, that into March. Of course, that does include March 2013, which was a very cold and wintry month. All winters combined, when we have 6 or more matches with the GWV.com winter forecast methodology, looks like that. Below average heights tend to be to the south of us, above average heights tend to be to the north of us, still favouring a cold winter. So 5 or more matches favours a cold winter, 6 or more matches seems to favour a cold winter as well. Breaking the temperature anomalies down month by month, December comes out close to average of temperature anomaly, but notice how mild it is, favoured to be in December with 6 or more matches to our north. So that's where all the high pressure is sitting, of course. Very cold across parts of Russia and into the east of Europe, you'll notice. This is how January looks in terms of the winters that are showing up with 6 or more matches, and again close to average with the temperatures, a little bit colder than average across Scandinavia. See where the blocking is sitting, where it's warmer than average over Greenland. February's with 6 or more matches goes colder. Much of Northern Europe goes very cold during February, and that cold weather does extend into much of Central and Western Europe as well. So it's getting colder seemingly as the winter is going along. All Marches with 6 or more matches in terms of a temperature anomaly. Much of Northern Europe, and particularly around Baltic areas into Western Russia, really plunged into the freezer in March. So a long, cold winter suggested for northeastern parts of Europe when we have 6 or more matches. The overall winter temperature anomaly, when we have 6 or more matches, looks like that, close to average. Cold average up in the north. We see that it does get progressively colder as the winter goes along. In terms of precipitation, this is how it looks for all Decembers, where we have 6 or more matches. So quite a wet signal. Much of Western Europe in December, we could continue to see quite wet conditions continuing into the UK during December, especially for the southern part of the UK. Notice drier than average though going further north. Then we go through to January, and those wetter conditions are still there, but a little bit further to the south in January, presumably because the blocking signal is sent in the jet stream south. Was noticed again drier than average to our north and west, where we have 6 or more matches with our methodology. February favoured to be quite dry than average conditions across much of Western Europe, including the UK and Ireland during February. And then March also looking rather dry. So as we go along, it becomes progressively drier. Seems to be the signal there that it starts off quite wet with the winter, and it gets progressively dry, but also potentially progressively colder as well. All winters combined in terms of precipitation, drier than average to our north and west, wetter than average, substantially so to our south. Of the UK itself, near normal with precipitation, but that masks the fact that it starts off quite wet and then it gets drier as we go along. Let's narrow the field down even further, and we're going to look at our top 3 matches showing up 7 times or more. So we really are, as we go along, we really are narrowing the field down a lot. This time we only have 3 years, 1998 for December, so that's 98, 99, 2002, 2003, and 2012, 2013. They have shown up 7 times or more. So for all Decembers combined for those 3 winters, we tend to get low pressure out to our west, still with blocking signals to our north. Not lined up quite as well to deliver a cold month though. Does look unsettled with the jet stream coming in. That could go in a cold direction. with that blocking up to the northeast, but it's not quite as clear-cut as the 5 and 6 or more matches. That's how January looks, potentially quite unsettled, below average heights through much of Western Europe, still with blocking signals up to the north, still with above average heights. Again, not as clear-cut as the 5 or 6 or more matches for a cold January. But it does look as though it would be rather an unsettled month and could have some cold potential. February looks like it goes much drier as above average heights then begin to appear close to the UK. Notice it is connecting back to a Scandinavian ridge. So probably a drier and potentially rather colder month in February. And then March looks like that with our top 3 analog years showing up 7 times or more. So for March, again, we take the high pressure up towards Greenland. But it does also extend to our east with below average heights out to our west and the southwest. It looks like that's a relatively dry signal for March. Could be quite cold. We have got 2013 in there, although the other two, 2003 and 1999, were not overly cold in March. Actually, they were relatively mild Marches, but the scene is definitely shifting towards drier weather. All winters combined, in terms of our top 3 analog years, it's looking like this. So yes, below average heights to our south and east, above average heights up to our northeast, and you would expect us to be bringing in easterly winds. So these winters could be cold. They do have a little bit of cold potential. They definitely have a blocking signal, but not quite as clear cut with the 5 or more and 6 or more analog years. Looking at temperatures, so just for these top 3 analog years, notice very cold December is favoured for much of Europe, particularly eastern and northern parts of Europe. Actually could be relatively mild as signal out to the west of Europe, but for the north, central and east areas, very cold signal for December with our top 3 analog years. All Marches looking like that, so the cold area shrinks, particularly focused around Scandinavia. Notice it is mild average low up to our north. That indicates the risk of increasing northern blocking. All February is looking a lot colder for much of central western Europe. So much cold average across many central western parts of Europe. That cold air does just about get into the UK as well. And then all Marches combined for our top 3 analog years look like that. Very cold across the far north of Europe and northwestern Russia. Colder than average through many parts of northern Europe, and that includes the UK. That probably because 2013 is included in the top 3 analog years there. In terms of the winter temperature overall for these 3 top winters, this is how it's looking. So colder than average for many northern, central and eastern areas, nearer normal out to the west, perhaps a milder average winter towards Greenland and Iceland, indicative of a blocking signal. Precipitation with our top 3 analog years looking like that, wetter than average to the UK and western parts of Europe. So a wet start to the winter is still favoured here with the top 3 analog winters. In terms of January, going closer to average, so not as wet in January, not as wet as signal in January. February, again, going towards drier conditions once again, looking drier than average there across the UK and western parts of Europe in February with our top 3 analog years. And March, again, significantly drier than average. So precipitation-wise, quite a strong signal, whether it's 5 or more, 6 or more, or 7 or more. Quite a strong signal for precipitation to start off quite wet and get progressively drier as the winter goes along. All winters combined for those top 3 winters for precipitation shows drier than average conditions up to our north, wetter than average to our west and south. Bear in mind, again, that is because we have a wet start to winter and we go drier the further into the winter we go. And then finally, we have our top 2 analog years. So these are the 2 that are showing up 8 times or more. Well, we don't show up more than 8 times, but these are the 2 that are showing up 8 times. We've got excuse me, 2002, 2003, and 2012, 2013. Those 2 winters have shown up 8 times during 13 winter updates. And in terms of all Decembers combined for those 2 leading analogue years, we have below average heights in December through the UK, Western Europe. We have this strong blocking signal up to the north, up towards the northern latitudes. Could be quite a coldish signal, therefore, for December. And then as we go, but also quite a south signal. Then as we go through to January, we find that the area of below average heights centres more across central parts of Europe. The above average heights are up towards Greenland and Iceland, and that will favour pulling in these cold winds from the north and from the northeast. Could be a cold signal with those top 2 analog years for January. Excuse me again. I've done a huge amount of talking with these winter updates. I think the vocal cords are about ready to give out, but we shall persevere. And this is how all February's combined are looking with our 2 analogue years, and we favour a Scandinavian high with these two leading analogue years. Scandinavian high favouring bringing in easterly winds in February 2003 and February 2013. We go through to all Marches combined. This does include that very cold March of 2013, of course, which favours having above average heights to our north and below average heights out to the southwest. And of course, we know that's a very, very cold March that we had there in 2013. But March 2003 was actually quite warm and dry. So 2 very conflicting and contrasting Marches in our top 2 analogue years. All winters combined for these 2 leading analogue years look like that. Below average heights to our south and above average heights tending to be to our north. We will favour bringing in easterly winds with these 2 leading analogue years. Temperature wise, again, we see that much of northern Europe is plunged into the freezer with these 2 Decembers looking very, very cold. Much of northern and eastern Europe during these Decembers not as cold out to the west and southwest. In fact, perhaps rather mild signal some parts of Western Europe. January sees a massive reduction in that cold area, but it also sees a reduction in the milder area out to the west. So generally for Western Europe it goes a bit colder in January. Northern Europe actually starts to warm up a little bit. February, again, this is indicative of the northern blocking. February, with our leading 2 analogue years, is mild and average to our north, cold and average across many central and western parts of Europe. That cold air could be threatening the UK at times. And then March, this is because we've got March 2013 as our within our top 2 leading years. So for March, we find that yes, it's going cold and average even into the UK. Much of Northern Europe is also looking colder than average as well. Putting the 2 leading analogue years together for in terms of December to February, this is how things are looking. So cold and average in many northern, central, eastern parts of Europe. Mild and average again out towards Greenland, Iceland, near normal temperature anomalies for the UK, west parts of Europe. But again, remember, it's getting progressively colder as the winter is going along. That seems to be a recurring theme within our analogues. And then finally, for our top 2 leading analogue years, we've got December precipitation. So again, very suggestive of a wetter than average December, particularly focusing on England and Wales. For that, a rather wet start to the winter would be expected. That goes away a little bit in January, starts to go a little bit drier than average or near normal, with precipitation across much of Northern Europe, UK, including that during January in our top 2 analogue years. February, significantly drier than average. Strong suggestion, whether it's 5 or more, 6 or more, 7 or more, or the leading 2 analogues with 8 matches. Whichever batch we take, February is suggested to be a rather dry month, which indicates that as the winter goes along, probably becomes drier. So there are flooding concerns early on, but it probably gets drier later. And March also looking drier than average as well for the UK and much of Western Europe. Precipitation wise, in terms of these 2 top analogue winters, we see that northern parts of UK, dry on average, southern areas to the south of the UK wetter than average. It's getting drier as it's going along, so it starts wet in December. By February, it's significantly drier than average. The last thing I want to show you is Terry Scully's preferences. So I can't explain how these have come to be, Terry's preferences, but these are the years that Terry is particularly interested in, or the winters, I suppose. So we've got 1935, 1936, 1955, 1956, 1997, 1998, 2002, 2003, 2012, 2013. I wanted to include this because it's been such a collaborative process, and I wanted to show you Terry's preferences finally before we issue our forecast. So this is how all December's combined are looking with Terry's preferences from our analog years. Looks unsettled for December, but with a stronger blocking signal to the north. Those Decembers could be cold. They could bring in cold air from the north, but primarily they are very unsettled Decembers. January, in terms of Terry's preferences, look like that. Low pressure is to our north and west. High pressure is centred around Greenland. So again, these Januaries could be cold. They could be pushing cold air into that trough of below average heights, that trough of low pressure. March is, February I should say, is a more clear-cut cold signal, actually. So low pressure tends to be more through southern Europe with the jet stream. Notice how the high pressure strengthens up towards the northern latitudes up here between Scandinavia and Greenland. That does include February 1956, of course, which is a ferociously and severely cold February. And in terms of the Marches, we see that with Terry's preferences, high pressure centred to our north, low pressure, let's change the colour, low pressure to the south and southwest, bringing in the winds from an east to southeasterly direction. Temperatures with Terry's preferences look like that, so rather mild across much of Western Europe in December, cold across much of northern and northeastern Europe. January going colder across Scandinavia and also to the north of the UK, milder temperatures shifting more towards the east and southeast of Europe. It looks like January could be transitioning something a little bit colder. February, with Terry's preferences, shows most of Europe plunged into the freezer. Again, that's probably primarily because we've got February 1956 included, although we do also have February 2012 included, which is quite a cold month as well. But just look how cold it is across most of Central and Northern, and also Western Europe. The UK looking very, very cold there in February. And then March, looks like that the cold sort of receding back into northern and eastern parts of Europe in March, going closer to average across the west of Europe. All winters look like that with Terry's preferences, so very much favouring a really cold winter in the north and northeast of Europe. But remember, by February, that does spread out across most parts of Europe precipitation-wise with Terry's preferences. So again, still signalling quite a wet start to the winter across West Europe. UK is included in that. Rather wetter than average December has been a signal all the way through this. Let's see what happens as we go further on. So January also looking rather unsettled here as well. That's a bit different to some of the January precipitation we've been looking at. But February, look at that again. We're going drier than average, dry and cold favoured for February with Terry's preferences. And then for March, we look like that. Again, going for March, rather drier than average. So late winter goes much drier but also colder. Early winter is wetter but milder. All winters combined for precipitation finally. Drier than average to our north, wetter than average to our south. With Terry's preferences, we're near normal, but of course that does mask the fact we start off quite wet at the beginning of winter, and then we go drier later. And that's talked you through, let's get the camera back up, that has talked you through all of our analogues. So all we have left to do now is to give you the forecast. We're going to pause one final time. I'm going to go get a drink of water because I feel my throat tightening up a little bit. As I say, these videos have stressed my vocal cords a little bit, so I can feel my throat tightening up a bit. I'm going to get a drink of water and let freight calm down a bit, and then we will return and we will give you the GWV.com winter 2019-2020 forecast. We've gone through the analogs, you've seen the leading analog years, and you're going to find out very, very shortly what we're forecasting. But I'm just going to get that drink of water and give the throat a little bit of a drink, and I'll see you all very, very shortly. See you soon. Okay, we're back, and we're ready to resume the final part of the GWV Winter 2019-2020 forecast. And I hope you enjoyed this this forecast. I hope you enjoyed seeing how we have worked out our leading analog years and what those analog years are suggesting in terms of this winter. It's now time to combine the analogs with the seasonal models. Of course, we're doing 3 seasonal model roundups. We know the long range models have been very heavily favouring a milder winter, westerly winds for this winter, and milder conditions, but the analogs seem to be favouring a rather colder winter, perhaps. So we have a bit of a discrepancy there between the analogs and the models. I think the first thing we're going to say is that this winter is likely to be slightly colder than average, but I won't want to go any further than that. I think, as we saw within the analogs that we've just looked at, there is the chance of a very cold winter, but I would say that's a relatively low chance of a very cold winter, and I'll explain one of the reasons why I think that's the case in a moment. So I wouldn't want to go any further than a slightly cold average winter, say around half a degree below the 81 to 2010 average, which does 61 to 1990 will probably make it close to average, actually. So we're definitely not going too over top with the colder signal. But yes, I do think there's a little bit of cold potential within this winter. I think we could have a very contrasting and conflicting winter. That's probably not overly apparent within the analogs, but I do think there's potential for a lot of contrast, a lot of fighting to be going on within the app series. Have the drivers again competing against one another to some degree. So we know we're at solar minimum, which does favour us to be in a colder winter, to have a colder winter, but we also have other drivers, and again I'll talk about it, one of the important drivers in a moment, that are favouring a milder type winter outcome. So I think we've got the great drivers of weather conflicting with one another, and therefore I won't want to go any further than a slight cold average winter. That's not to say we can't have a very cold winter. I think there is the potential here for a very cold winter, but it's a low risk. I would rate it no more than around 10-15% probability. And equally, there is the chance that this winter could turn out to be very mild. So we have this range of outcomes that we try to work out. And our good friend Richard Traut actually every week on the GWV chat produces a swingometer to show, getting a little bit political here, doing a little bit Peter Snow, perhaps, a little bit of fun, as Peter used to say. But Richard does do a swingometer. It's quite an important point, actually, that swingometer, because we have this range of outcomes from, like, the one extreme, I suppose, would be a severe winter, and the other extreme would be an exceptionally mild winter. And you can imagine there's this range of outcomes from the one extreme of very cold to the one extreme of very mild, and where we are swinging that swingometer, I suppose, or that pendulum for this winter, is just into the slightly colder than average bracket. But within that, there will be a margin for error. So that could swing a bit further to cold, or it could swing the other way into slightly milder or a genuinely mild winter. We don't think that's likely to be the outcome. We think this is going to be a slightly colder than average winter, and that's what we're forecasting. But always bear in mind, with any forecast, there will be a range of outcomes from one extreme to another. Precipitation-wise, I think we're looking at near normal precipitation for this winter, but that masks the fact that we have a very strong signal for it to begin quite wet. I think there could be more flooding concerns during December. As the winter progresses, we should see things getting slowly milder. and slightly drier, I should say. So as we get to February, we probably have a drier than average month. So the wetter than average December probably offset by the drier than average February, bringing precipitation out around average. Bear in mind, we do have flooding concerns to start off with in the winter, and then I think those flooding concerns probably recede a little bit as the winter goes along. As far as the coldest months, I think all three of the winter months, and probably March too, could contain cold weather at times, but I don't think that cold is going to be sustained. I think there's going to be enough mild signals to be able to push the cold back. So I think it'll be one of those winters where the cold comes for a few days and then goes, and then it comes back again and it goes, and then it comes back again and it goes again. It's going to be that sort of seesaw type winter, I think, where we have two competing temperature air masses and pressure belts fighting with one another. So yes, I think there'll be quite a bit of battling that could produce some snow at times, but I think all of the winter months probably have cold potential. I would suggest December could actually be quite cold, and we may time that around Christmas. Actually, there has been a suggestion in some of the long range output that Christmas could be rather cold, and then maybe again later. I think that has been quite a strong signal that later on, as we get towards February, then we may start to see the cold really begin to bed in a little bit more by the time we get through to February. That could be down to the QBO, the quasi-biennial oscillation, which is going to start moving into its easterly phase very shortly, but later winter is when I would anticipate it would be properly into its easterly phase. So that could have an effect on bringing the latter part of winter out a little bit colder than the earlier part of winter. But again, I do think there's cold potential for December here, probably not sustained, but I think there is a chance of cold and wintry weather at times during this December. And I think all of the winter months have cold and wintry potential, cold and snow potential, but not continuously, not being able to continue for more than a few days before it's replaced by the next low pressures crashing in from off the Atlantic. Earlier in winter, probably favour more sort of northerly outbreaks. Later in winter, perhaps favouring easterly outbreaks a little bit. That's something that Terry has highlighted in his winter forecast. I think looking at the analogues data again, we back up that idea that it gets drier but probably colder, with perhaps more of an easterly influence later on in the winter. So slightly colder, yes, but not desperately cold for much of the UK. However, I think many parts of northern, central and eastern Europe could get some very cold weather this winter. So I know you have people watching in Europe, and I don't know your local climates as well as you do, but I would say, based on our analogues and methodology, that central, northern and northeastern Europe could be in for really quite a cold winter. The southeast of Europe, I think, probably coming and going a little bit with the cold. At times, when it turns milder in Western Europe, I think at times that cold air will sink into the south of Europe, into the Balkans. But as it gets colder in the northwest, we probably see the cold air in the southeast of Europe receding a little bit. So seesawing in the southeast of Europe, probably seesawing through the Med and seesawing through western parts of Europe, including the UK and Ireland. Northern, central, eastern Europe, that's where I will focus on the risk of potentially a cold, even a very cold winter this time. One of the things that could go wrong with this forecast, isn't there always something, but one of the things that could go wrong is what's happened with the oceans through this autumn. So this is the sea surface temperature anomaly map for from NOAA for the world, and I want to focus on the Pacific and the Atlantic. I think this is very important, and it could be a problem with this forecast. So we have the ENSO region just here, the actual Pacific Ocean, at ENSO neutral. We explained when we did our winter update, and I was looking at ENSO, that ENSO neutral is not a particularly conducive phase to a cold winter. There were one or two cold winters within the mix that were ENSO neutral winters following an El Nino, but not that many of them. Not that many of them. The better state is actually, for a cold winter, is actually going to be a weak La Nina, or, may seem a bit perverse, but also a weak to moderate El Nino. You don't want either to be very strong, so you don't want to go to a strong La Nina or a strong El Nino, because they'll override everything and just blow up the jet stream. But ENSO neutral is not a particularly good state to be in for a cold winter in northern Europe and the UK included. The last time we had an end-to-neutral winter was 2013, 2014. That was the very wet, stormy winter. Of course, also very mild. We've also got this warmer than average area of sea surface temperature in the northern Pacific Ocean, particularly the northeastern Pacific. I don't think that's a particularly good sign either. I think that will probably send the jet stream northwest, southeast across America. Will probably bring very cold air down into northern and eastern America, and then as that comes out of the states, that could blow up the jet stream. Now, that wouldn't necessarily be a problem if the jet stream was on a southerly track. So if the jet stream is doing something a little bit like that, no, that's going to be wrong. So if the jet stream is doing something a little bit like that, and then going across the Atlantic like that, then that's just going to take the storm track into southern Europe, and that will allow us to pull in cold winds from the north and also from the east. However, if the jet stream is doing something like this, then that's going to be a problem, because that will bring cyclogenesis and deep areas of low pressure across the Atlantic and into much of northern Europe. That will be dependent, where that jet stream track is, will be dependent on whether we get northern blocking setting up within the northern latitudes. The analogue suggests we should do, but to me, the oceans don't look all that conducive for a cold winter, I have to say. One of the other issues is this horseshoe shape of cold and average sea surface temperature anomalies that is developing week by week across the North Atlantic. That's something that we had in 2018. It's a cold AMO signature, Atlantic Multi-Decadal Oscillation signature. If that develops further and we start to turn very cold around here and very cold around here, and then we're warm around there, let's get rid of all of that. So if we start to turn things very cold around here, and we're very cold through here, and then we're warm through here, that would be a reverse tripole. And again, that is not going to be particularly conducive to a cold winter. So what's happening with the oceans is the big caveat about this forecast. And I'm sorry if it seems like I'm hedging my bets a little bit, but we do have to take into account all factors. And whilst the forecast itself, yes, does, I think, there's enough there to suggest we probably come away with a slight cold average winter, because particularly of how the oceans are set up, I don't think we'll be able to sustain cold outbreaks for prolonged periods with this winter. So in some ways, it could well be a teaser winter. I think cold will tease us and torment us. It will often try to push in, particularly from the east, but get pushed back, recede back by the Atlantic, get attacked by the Atlantic, if you like. It could be quite a frustrating winter at times. I think sometimes that cold weather will get to us, but I doubt it will be sustained for very long, unless something dramatic starts to shift with the ocean sea surface temperature anomalies, and with the oceans set up as they are, because to me the oceans, both the Pacific and the Atlantic, don't look particularly conducive to a cold winter, I have to say. If the oceans set up as they are were to really start to fight against those cold conditions, we could actually come away with a milder than average winter. That is within our range of error, a rather milder than average winter. But we're going with the central prediction, which is a slightly colder than average winter. But please bear in mind that there is a big caveat. Just as there was last year, there was a big caveat last year with last year's forecast. We've got another one of those with this year's forecast. It seems like it's never particularly straightforward. So that's it. That's the winter forecast for you. I hope you have enjoyed it. We've tried and done our best to explain the thinking behind this forecast. So I just hope you've understood everything that we said. It's going to be a very interesting winter. It's going to be fascinating to see how it works out. I just wish the oceans were a little bit better for a colder winter, to be able to really go for a properly cold winter. But I'm not able to do that due to how the Atlantic and Pacific are looking. Nevertheless, I think we probably come away with a slightly colder average winter, and rainfall-wise starting wet, becoming drier as we go further along. And it's going to be a lot to keep an eye on for this winter. Just to say, but if you've been enjoying our winter updates and this winter forecast, please can you consider becoming a patron for Gazzo. We've got 67 patrons so far, so hello and a big thank you to our 67 patrons. We want to get 7 patrons for Christmas, but I'm not sure we'll be able to do it. If you'd like to become a patron for Gazzo events and give an ongoing monthly donation from $1 a month upwards, you just go to Gazzo's Patreon page, sign up for a Patreon account, and you can become a patron of Gazzo events. Alternatively, you can become a PayPal donor. So by doing that, just come to Gazzo's PayPal page, sign into your PayPal account, and then you can give a one-off donation to Gazzo Vids, and you'll be able to pay for our website, GWV.com, and keep the content online. And a big thank you to everybody for doing that. And I think that pretty much sums up the winter forecast. So again, thank you so much everybody for watching this forecast, and thank you so much everybody for sticking with the winter updates. I know it's been a very, very long season of updates. My vocal cords can attest to that. But I just hope you've enjoyed it. I think this season of winter updates has been the most exhaustive, and for me, exhausting season of updates that we've done so far. Every video lasting over an hour, although I don't think this one is quite going to. I could be wrong about that. Let's have a look. So probably just going to come out around the hour mark, actually, or just a little bit under. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this this forecast, this season of winter updates. A big thank you to James, to Richard, and to Terry for all of their help and input. And that's it. I do no more than what we've done. So thank you so much, everybody, for sticking with this season of winter updates and for watching this winter forecast. All that remains is for me to give you a little summary in a moment of the forecast. I'll get that for you very shortly. This video will be placed on the winter forecast page with a written summary probably around 8 o'clock this evening. Terry Scoley's December forecast will be coming up later on. And also, of course, we're going to have a live stream on YouTube between 5 and 6 o'clock where we're going to be talking about this winter forecast. I'll take as many of your questions as I can and see what you thought to the forecast. But now I'm going to put up the little summation just to round things off, and then that will very much be the end of the forecast. So I won't speak again. You may hear me coughing in the background. As I said, it's been a very, very trying season of updates on the vocal cords. Throat is tightening up at the moment, so you may hear me having a bit of cough in the background, but I won't say any more. I'm going to say thank you so much for watching. Have a little read of the summary, and then we'll end the video. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching this season of updates and for watching this winter 2019-2020 forecast. Of course, we will verify this forecast when we get through to March. Thanks so much to all of you.